You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network and the John Fredericks Radio app. Thanks for being with us live in Atlanta this week. Justin Fairfax, running for governor. I have been predicting that Fairfax is going to pull the upset of the century. Polls showing now rising is up to 13-15%. The race really hasn't started. McAuliffe won't do any debates. He's hiding. What's up with that? I think Fairfax is the biggest sleeper in this race. I've said this for a year, and I'm telling you, man, I never get this stuff wrong. This is going to be quite the night on primary night. Fairfax is rising in the polls every single week. Got to ask yourself, what's going on here, right? Let's find out. He's going to be on. He's with us, and he'll be up momentarily. Justin Fairfax, running for governor, the lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Joining us now, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Democrat, running for governor. This will be decided in the second week in June primary. Justin Fairfax. Lieutenant Governor Fairfax, thank you for being with us.
Hey, John, thanks so much for having me on. Thanks to all your listeners and all the great Virginians out there.
All right, let's start with your race for governor. Bunch of people in the race. Basically, you can call it Big Four. Yourself, McAuliffe, Jennifer Foy, working very hard, by the way. I'm really impressed with how hard she's working. She's not going to be the nominee, but she's working hard. Jennifer McClellan, and then the avowed socialist, Connie Lee from the CCP. You've been in a number of debates and forums. McAuliffe AWOL. How can you say you're the front runner and you don't show up at any of the debates, Justin?
Well, John, I'll tell you. I've certainly shown up when we've been invited, and we went out, over the course of not just the last several months, but really the last number of years, and made the case to Virginians that we've got to create a commonwealth where regular people can not only survive, but they can thrive. There are so many families and small businesses and others who, are hurting, who have, felt the pressure and the strain of the pandemic, and of the forces that really are, stopping them from achieving the American dream. And so our job is to stand up for them. Our job is to do it, even when, it's unpopular and it's lonely at first, but you eventually, come around and you make the case and you create that opportunity in education, healthcare, housing, criminal justice reform. And that's what we've done. And that's why, the voters have always, been there for us.
Is McAuliffe ever going to participate in a debate?
Look, I can't speak to, what any other candidate, is doing or is going to do, in the race. But I think the reason, as you know, John, we got 1.36 million votes in 2017 in our run for lieutenant governor, the most votes ever in history for a lieutenant governor. And that was because we went everywhere. We talked to people, where they are. In their communities and their homes, and I've been to every part of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I've listened to people, again, regular folks who, don't have the means, don't have the connections. They want someone in government who is fighting for them, who understands their struggle, and that's really what we've been able to do, and that's why I think we've always had success with the voters and made sure that our success at the polls turns into their success in the economy and in their lives.
I just think it's dangerous look, if you look at the poll numbers, Terry McAuliffe is a front runner. He's got the name IDs, got the money, but he's kind of like the corporate candidate, the Hillary Clinton candidate right now. He's got a lot of issues going on. But my experience has been when you've got really good competitors, really good people in the race, with something to say and a track record, skipping this forum after forum, I think it's consultant driven, and I don't think you're connecting with the people, and I think it's going to hurt them. The last poll that came out, you were second. You were up in about the 15% range, so you went from 7 to 8 to 15. The next poll that comes out, you're going to be over 20. Do you feel a surge in your campaign? Is it a mini surge? What are you saying?
John, I feel that, first of all, as the voters start to, focus in a little bit more on the race, they're, starting to see, as you mentioned, track records. And I'm proud of the track record that we've been able to put together. As you know, presiding over the Senate, I broke the ties to expand Medicaid here in the Commonwealth, and today, over 500,000 more Virginians have health insurance as a result of those tie-breaking votes and of that work. So I'm proud that as Lieutenant Governor, I was able to help deliver 500,000 Virginians health care. And I think that's a powerful record to be able to run on. In addition, I've done so much on eviction prevention. We put millions of dollars into the Housing Trust Fund and reforming our laws around evictions to keep people in their homes and keep families stable. And, we've done so much around criminal justice reform. Again, been outspoken. And as you know, John, what it really takes, too, is courage, stand up to, so many of the forces that have existed for so long. Within my first week and a half in office, you'll recall, I protested the honoring of Confederate Generals Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson in the Senate, a tradition that had carried on for nearly 150 years. And folks just sort of went along with it. I thought it was wrong, the wrong thing to do. And in protesting that, I'm proud to say that now that no longer occurs. So we snapped a 150-year tradition that I believe was divisive and didn't represent all Virginians. And so it's that kind of courage to stand up again when it first feels lonely, and but ultimately it's the right thing to do. That's where I think the voters look and they say, that's who we want fighting for us. That's who, we need to stand up, with that kind of clarity. And so, again, I think that, we've always, had the voters there on our side, run 3 times statewide here in Virginia. And we've never gotten less than 48% of the statewide vote in any of those 3 elections, including my very first time running for office. And so, I think that you look at regular Virginians who really just want a fighter and a champion and someone who understands their issues, cares deeply about them and their communities, and is willing to go to bat for them. That's what this is all about. There are a whole bunch of folks who are not comfortable. They're not connected. What they need is someone who is out there fighting for them and is on their side. And the voters will be on your side, when you represent that to them.
How do you win?
I think we win like we've won before, John. As I mentioned, in 2017, again, got the most votes ever for Lieutenant Governor, 1.36 million.
But how do you beat McAuliffe? I mean, McAuliffe is the front runner, and I want to get down to just, be honest with each other here in our audience. I mean, he's the overwhelming front runner. He's got all the money. He's got the corporate support. He's got everything. It's like he's got the whole bag. He's got the fire engines, the trucks. He's got it all, right? Mercedes driving around. I mean, he's got everything, plus he's way ahead. How does Justin Fairfax on June 9th get more votes than Terry McAuliffe? Because there's no runoff. How do you get more votes and win?
Well, John, I think you just hit on one of the keys. The key is to get the most votes, and the voters decide these elections. And so, everything that happens prior to the election itself, that's all sort of bells and whistles. But at the end of the day, it's the voters who go into the booth and they make their decisions. And if you look at prior elections, having overwhelming amounts of money and even large political connections and endorsements doesn't always translate into victory, and certainly doesn't translate into overwhelming victory. I mean, John, you're a numbers guy. You've looked at the numbers, and you have surprised and shocked people at how we have performed, including. We've had elections where, we're down the polls by double digits, weeks before the election, and we end up winning by double digits because, people, you have to talk directly to the people. It's not always about slick mailers and TV ads. It's about, connecting with the people, connecting with their struggle and what they need. And when you do that, the folks show up for you. I've been outspent before, in other elections, and we've still, done very well and certainly won when we had.
Well, Herring outspent in 2013. Herring outspent you, the concurrent Attorney General, 3.5 to 1, and you came within, a couple hundred votes of beating him. By the way, just so my audience knows, I predicted that upset. Got beat by a couple hundred votes when everybody said it was a done deal. Just saying.
Well,
all right.
You were close. You're on the money then, and And of course, then 4 years later, you were clairvoyant. I mean, you were right there. Although I think, John, you predicted that I would lose the general, if I'm not mistaken. But you're usually always right. But but we ended up winning that general by about 5.
Well, that's because I really thought Vogel would do better in that race. That was a good race. You and Joe Vogel. That was a really good race. It was, you guys stuck the issues. There were no personal attacks. That was a really good race, and at the end of the day, you clobbered her. I mean, it is what it is. So I think you go into every one of these races, you're underestimated. You were underestimated running for lieutenant governor, running for attorney general, now running for governor. When you're underestimated, you really have a tremendous advantage because people really don't see anything until it's too late.
Yeah, well, John, I agree with that. And here's the thing, John. I've been underestimated, my whole life. I come from a place where folks didn't think we, amount to much or succeed, and yet we had folks who believed in us, gave us opportunity, and here you are, raised primarily by a single mother, sent all 4 of her kids to college, 2 of us to law school, and we're out, being able to make a difference for other people. And the truth is that, so many Virginians are underestimated. You have Virginians out there who are voters, John, who, they're not born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They're not, when they start in their lives, they're not predicted to, sort of take everything by storm because they have all the resources. They're out there fighting, and they want a fighting chance for their kids and their grandkids, and that's really the ethos that was always, animated me, and that's been, in my DNA and in my experience, and as you know, this goes back even further because, I am someone who was a great-great-great-grandson of someone who was enslaved here in Virginia, Simon Fairfax, freed in 1798. By the ninth Lord Fairfax. When that story started, here you have somebody who, faced overwhelming odds in life and yet was able to, provide for his family down through the generations, people who, didn't start with very much material means, but, they were able to make lives for themselves. And that's what Virginians really are facing. There's so much economic devastation. There's so many forces arrayed against them, and they need a fighter. They need a champion. They need somebody who's really going to be, on their side and have that vision. So, having already, helped deliver 500,000 Virginians health care, having, created, great reforms around criminal justice reform, raised teacher pay, done so much to, bring Virginia, into a new era where people can thrive and succeed, and where we have a more just society. It really is about justice, fairness, and opportunity, and we have got to fight for that for people. If you give people a fighting chance, they will rise to the occasion. But we have to stop counting people out. We have to stop, attacking. We have to stop tearing people down. We really have to begin to build people and communities up, and that's really what the focus has been on my public service. My signature plan, as you know, around education, the 40-30-10 plan to rebuild and reimagine all of our public schools here in the Commonwealth of Virginia that are at least 40 years old or older.
What is your? I want to get to that in a second, so I want to tie this in. Your 40-30-10 plan. Justin Fairfax, John Fredericks Radio Network, Truck the Truth Across America, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, running for governor. That'll be decided in a June 9th Democrat primary. By the way, nothing going on for Republicans that day, so who knows? They've got a convention May 8th. Justin, what is your plan in a nutshell, quickly? What is your plan to open up schools in Virginia?
Yeah, well, we've got to, open up, safely, and we've got to do it soon. As you know, in this last session, there was legislation passed. The governor has, focused on opening the schools here in March. You do have schools that are returning around the Commonwealth of Virginia with safeguards in place. Part of my plan is, I want to make sure we get all of our teachers vaccinated as quickly as possible. We're doing, much better on that front. If you look at the numbers, we have a quarter of our population here in Virginia, about 2 million people who've gotten at least the first dose, 1 million fully vaccinated. And so that has been a key part of our ability to reopen our schools. But we've got to get our young people back in our schools. And again, as I mentioned with my investment, the 40-30-10 plan, it is about not just rebuilding the fiscal structure, that's critically important, but reimagining those schools, giving them the resources, making these schools places where we can adapt and adjust. Because, as you know, many of these schools were built 50, some 100 years ago, and you don't have the HVAC capacity, the resources, the technology that we need to have. And so I released that plan, as you know, nearly a year ago. And it's a transformational plan, largest investment in K-12 education proposed in our history. And this comes at the right time. In the midst of a crisis, that's really where we can make these investments that change the future for not just the next generation, but for the generations to follow. And so we've got to get, again, our schools reopen, our kids in school, have the technology so that we can bridge when we need to, as we're doing this virtual education, which has been...
In a Justin Fairfax administration, August of 2021, are 100% of schools going to be open?
I would hope as close to that as possible, John. Again, and
as governor, as running in the campaign, I mean, is that what you would like to see? Are you calling for all schools to be open August 2021?
John, that's what I would love to see. And I have to say this, though. It depends on the work that we do to make that possible. Again, this effort that we have around vaccination, following the guidelines around masking and everything the CDC has recommended is going to be critical to allowing us to do that. So absolutely, I would love for that to happen. I think we have to do everything we can to make sure that happens. And John, I think this also is an important point. A year ago, last March, I was the first elected official statewide to call for our schools to close. And at that time, only one other state had done it, Kansas. So we were the second state to have done it. And at that moment, we had only about 77 confirmed cases of the coronavirus here in Virginia. You, of course, know now that we're in the hundreds of thousands. And so it was standing up that kind of leadership, understanding what was coming, what was around the corner, and the work that we had to do to protect our population, but also to preserve our kids.
All right, I got to bounce. Justin, people want to get in touch with your campaign. Where do they go?
They can go to JustinFairfax.com, teamJustinFairfax@gmail.com. And, John, thanks for all your work. And let's keep going. Let's get our kids back in school. Let's get our economy running. Virginia is always going to lead the way. And I'm proud to fight for everyday Virginians.
Stephen K. Bannon is next.